No fake names.
Can't read them all anyway.
No fake news
It's
here.
for a big audience at home.
We okay, Westborough TV? Good. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting of June 29th, 2023, our 33rd meeting of fiscal 2023. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location stated in the posted agenda, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link shown in the posted agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chairs, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed by Westborough TV. We thank Westborough TV for their continued support. In order to facilitate our meeting minutes, I'm going to do a quick roll call vote of members here, which will start with
Already present.
Bradley present.
Board present?
Leslie present.
McMahon present.
Oh, we skipped Clap.
Yep. Clap present.
New alphabet.
Stafford present.
Okay, very good. Okay. So, the first order of business is public comment. Is anyone from the public here to comment? Seeing none, we move on to discussion vote on appropriation transfers. First one up is, let's see, my list. It is legal expense with Town Manager Christy Williams.
Hello.
Hello. You'll be here a few times.
Up and down. So we are looking for an additional $50,000 in legal expenses. Our FY23 budget was about $130,000. In, I think, January, I came to you and asked for an additional 20. And then at town meeting, we transferred 50 from free cash. So this would be an additional $50,000 for legal expenses. As I shared before, and as I shared at town meeting, just looking at the select board's agenda, you can see that there are several cases of litigation. And so we continue to pursue those in the best interest of the town.
Are there any questions?
Do you think there's any chance to recover any of those funds?
Make sure.
In the litigation, if you win the litigation, will you recover your attorney's fees?
That's not the case with all of them. So
Any other questions? Make a motion.
I would make a motion to recommend,
We actually approved.
I'm sorry, yeah. I would make a motion to approve the transfer of $50,000 from the police department salary and wages to legal expenses.
Second?
And that's McMahon motion.
Bradley second.
Any further discussion?
I guess I'm just wondering why this is sourced from police. Is that relevant to the?
it's not relevant. No
Okay.
there's no relevance of
Okay.
where you're transferring from for any interdepartmental transfer.
Perfect. Thank you.
And for review, because we have new members as well, interdepartment transfers are only allowed in May and June.
Correct.
Right?
They require approval of both,
And the first 15 days of July, but it's for this year, not next year.
and they require approval of both your committee and the select board.
So the funding source is where there's funds
Correct.
happen to be left over that
Yep.
year versus another year.
I
Okay.
assume these legal fees compared to normal are atypically high?
Yes. Yep.
If you look at one of the select board agendas and look at
the list of,
the
yeah.
closed
That is-
meeting
that's
part,
also atypical,
There's
yeah.
a list.
Yes.
Okay, this time we'll start with Mike again.
Ready, yes.
Oh, wait a minute, is Beth not here?
Beth is not here, so I think we can.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, 7 present. Okay, next, I'm actually going to jump down to electricity because that's also Christie, and then if you want, or you want, oh, Chief, you're already coming. Okay,
We'll go together.
we'll let Leah and Leah
let
Talbot,
Leah.
our finance director, handle this.
So,
In that case, I would have not skipped the order. That's okay.
it's all right. We're all here. So I'm here this evening to looking for a transfer, similar to last year. I'm looking for, I think it's $18,250, and that is to fund the town's electricity account. The electricity account includes all the electric bills for all the streetlights and the Forbes building, the town hall, the community building, the senior center, the fire department, the library, the DPW, and even the EV charging station up at the country club. So it's a whole host of things. And this year, we're about 5 to 6% over budget. We've increased our budget for fiscal '24, as you probably remember, because we have a new contract starting. It started in mid-July to increase the rates for another 30 months. We signed a contract, so this will get us through the end of the fiscal year.
What's the kilowatt hour charge in the new contract?
12 and a half? 12 and a half.
And that starts in July, correct?
It starts, yeah,
Yeah.
for
So-
all intents and purposes, it starts in mid-June, but our bills are mid to mid, so.
Okay. And I think you said that even though our electricity charge was fixed, but the National Grid delivery wasn't necessarily part of that
Correct,
contract.
correct. It's
Their
just the
prices
supplier.
still have increased.
Right, it's just the supplier.
So cost is one half of the equation, the other half is usage. Do we have a sense of the general usage for the town?
I would say for the buildings, it's probably up a little bit. I can
Okay.
see that all of the budgets, almost every single one of them are higher than what they were, so.
But if it's just the budget would just reflect.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers
Okay.
as far as usage goes.
I think this comes from the sustainable Westborough kind of part of what I'm doing, which is like, obviously that's something we want to be tracking. Is it available but not
It's
available
not in my
now,
head.
or-
It's 120
Fairly.
accounts, and they're not all in my mind.
Totally
Um,
get it.
But
No
but
way
we
to
do
know that
track
number.
them, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What
Any
is
other-
the total budget number for electricity? I'm just curious, sort of what percentage of, it's not a huge dollar amount,
It's a
curious
huge,
what percentage it is. It is not a huge dollar amount, so I'm curious what percentage of the total electricity this is. Do you know what the budget was?
yes, the budget is 337,000.
That's what I was looking
So, okay, but that's just the electricity for the town buildings.
for. Okay.
It doesn't include the water and sewer pump stations and the schools.
So it's a little bit over 5%.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I do. The public lighting, outdoor lighting, what of that is solar in this town?
Anybody? I don't
think any of
know if
it.
there's solar. Probably probably the walkways.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking in the teens. Different levels.
Rod?
Do you know how the 12 and a half compares to what was expected when we're put together this year's budget?
It's a little bit less. When we put the budget together, we were on the high side of about 14 because that was the number that we had when we put the budgets together.
Good.
That's a good thing. Any other questions? No, would you like to make a motion?
Yep. McMahon, I make a motion to approve the transfer of $18,250 from finance, salary, and wages to electricity.
Second.
That's Beretti.
I think.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any
Hey, I'm here, so it's got to be voice. Sorry.
All right.
That's okay?
Hold that vote. Roll call vote, starting with Mike.
Already, yes.
Board, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
We'll
Okay.
get this alphabet
Eight
So
figured
that
out.
is now 800 with 8 present.
We should set alphabetically,
It would help.
So just so you guys know, there's a fair amount of reverb or echo going on. The other people also watching or hearing it, I don't know what to do about it, but if I don't respond, it may be because I can't understand what you're saying.
Okay, so as a reminder, please speak directly into microphones. Sounds good. Okay, next up is the fire department expense transfer with Chief Patrick Purcell.
Good evening, Patrick Purcell, serving as your fire chief. Thanks for having me here tonight. So as you saw in our expense line, we had a budget shortfall of around $33,000. As you have heard me speak ad nauseum about over the last couple of years about the increasing call volume at the fire department. When we wrote our budget that we're operating in today, that was in October or November of 2021, and we were generating revenue through EMS around just over $1.6 million. So we have a third-party vendor that does our billing, and we pay them an average of 2.95% is their fee. Because of the increase in our call volume, we have generated about $500,000 more than that, which created a shortfall to pay them. Also, as a result of the increase in call volume, we have a deficit in medical supply line, as well as our vehicle maintenance line from the wear and tear on those vehicles. For one example, we had a engine problem on Medic 2, and after that was repaired, the result was a $12,500 bill, which was like 1/3 of our initial budget. Looking ahead into the next year, we're also anticipating some heavy bills from vehicle maintenance. So in totality, that's that, and as well as the deputy chief Fursky left, and we had to pay for an assessment center to promote another deputy chief. So those things are really what generated a deficit for us. And I would respectfully request your support in this transfer.
And also to be clear, the extra revenue, that $500,000 goes into the general fund of the town, so the town is actually net positive by this, but it doesn't help your budget.
That's correct.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, can you make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the transfer, $33,200 from police department salary and wages to fire department expenses. That's McMahon.
Bradley, second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mike?
Already, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Thank you very much.
800.
Thank you.
Thanks,
8
Chief.
being present, thank you. Okay, next one up is one of our remote people, which is Jen Sullivan from Board of Health. It's a $2,000 transfer. Jen, can we hear you?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Good.
Jen
thank you.
Sullivan, your public health director here. I really can't hear you all, so I'm hoping that my side is okay for you. Yep, we're requesting $2,000 to be transferred from the Board of Health salary and wages to our Board of Health expenses. This is due to our public health nursing and our TB cases in town. We went over significantly because of the caseload that we currently have.
Okay.
So if you have any questions? I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? All good. Okay. Make a motion.
McMahon, make a motion to approve the transfer of $2,000 from Board of Health salary and wages to Board of Health expenses.
Bradley, second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Mike, roll call vote.
Already, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
8 present. Okay. can
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're doing the work. Okay. Next up is a request for transfer from the AFC Reserve Fund. Oh, it's the Jennifers again. Jen Sullivan from Board of Health and Jennifer Kirkland from the Rec Department have a request. So can one of you give a explanation? There was an explanation in this, so I could read that if needed.
Sure, I'll let Jen take the lead on this.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland, the Recreation Director. So we're asking for a transfer of $13,920 to do an enhanced copper sulfate treatment at Lake Chauncey to prevent algae blooms. In the past, we've gone to town meeting to request these funds. We held off this year because we were getting the Conservation Department was getting a study done of the lake, and we were hoping the results of that study would give us some suggestions on a management system on how to prevent algae blooms kind of permanently, I guess. And the study was basically, the results of the study were that we need another study. So we will be opening the beach this year without lifeguards, but with the beach being open, it's we think it's important to treat the beach with this copper sulfate treatment to prevent these algae blooms.
Okay, and I got information this afternoon from Leah that there are $205,577.14 remaining in the AFC reserve, of which this transfer would be from. So we'd be left with about 191.7 or 6 after this. Are there any questions on this? Andrew?
Jen, do you have a sense of the usage of Lake Chauncey this year, like in terms of, not looking for raw numbers, but relative to previous years?
I think I heard you about usage.
Yeah.
I'm getting the same feedback, so I'm sorry. I would expect for people will use it typically as people have always used it. It's usually fairly popular, especially in July and August. But where we're not selling passes or anything, it'd be really hard to gauge how many people.
Thank you.
So is it costing residents anything to go to Lake Chauncey now that there's no lifeguards?
No, it's free.
Okay. So there's no one at the door making sure people are residents?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Could we sell algae? No, maybe not.
Algae?
Yeah.
No. Oh, can we sell algae? Not that kind. You don't want that bloom kind. Okay, you make a motion, please.
McMahon, I make a motion to approve the transfer of $13,920 from AFC Reserve to the Board of Health expenses.
Bradley, second.
Okay, any further discussion? No? Roll call vote, Mike?
Already, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Board, no.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
That is 7-1-0-8 present. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
I think you guys are set, right? Yes. Thanks for dropping by. The next transfer is also from AFC Reserve, but it's AFC Reserve Water. And that will be done by, see, Chris Payon. Here he is.
Good evening. So, as you just said, we're asking for funding to be transferred from our reserve, your reserve, to pay for activities associated with a water main break that occurred this week. So it just occurred on Tuesday, and we wrapped up repairs today. And we're obviously at the end of the fiscal year, and it's cost we don't have funding to pay for, so it's emergency. We had to fix it. It was on Route 9, and so this money will pay those costs.
Makes sense.
Chris, did you have another water main break today, though?
I wondered about that.
Yes, well, we had we fixed another water leak today, yes.
But so there's not a need for additional funding for the one today?
No.
This is just the one,
No.
the large one on Tuesday?
Correct, yep. We had to bring in extra resources for the one we're requesting funding for. That's what's paying for that's what this funding is paying for. The one today was internally, like, we fixed it with our own guys.
How do you make a judgment call when to bring in a contractor versus using your guys to make those? I mean, is it based on the size and urgency, or?
Those are factors. It could be equipment that's necessary. It could be equipment, meaning the type of excavator or that sort of thing, how deep it is. It could also mean equipment in terms of some particular tool that's going to allow us to repair it in the most expedient way.
Go ahead.
So I suspect that the regular budget accounts for a number of incidents, whether it's water main breaks or other things you guys are constantly working on, staying on top of. Was this just a volume and size issue that pushed this into something that we're now asking for more money for? Like, have there been more of these sorts of events over this year than usual?
I wouldn't say more than usual. We have had to rely on contracted support a couple of times this year,
Okay.
which is, whenever we do that, that's a big expense. But it really just depends on what the specific issue is, and how technical it is, and whether we need that assistance or not. So.
Okay.
So
Thank
this
you.
particular one, my understanding was it was pretty significant, and Route 9, which likely makes it a little bit more urgent. Is that why we brought in a contractor, or was this is one of the instances where it was specific equipment or expertise that was necessary?
It was all three. So, so when you see the water on top of the ground, you don't necessarily know where it's coming from, and you're guessing as to what the issue is underground. And so, as kind of our response is to investigate, identify, estimate what we think the issue is, and based on that analysis, we determined that it was going to be a particular circumstance that we needed some assistance. The fact that it's on Route 9 is also a factor, because we shut down a lane for almost a day and a half. So, not everybody's happy about that, and so we want to get it fixed as quickly as possible. And the people who are out of water, aren't happy either. So, so all of those factors play into it, but it's, if it had happened at some other time in the year, maybe to your point, we would typically just pay for it out of our budget, and that just means we're not paying for something else. We're just shifting money towards it, but we don't have any money left because we spent it all, as we should, right?
Only one day left.
The last day's tomorrow. We're going to spend every dollar, so, in all of our budgets, because I think that's
That's why they're there.
why it's there, yeah.
And I'll say, I asked my question because you've been really proactive about looking at infrastructure and what's happening to it. And I think you've made some steps to really address longer-term concerns. The context I was asking was, is this indicative of an event that just happened because of timing? Or is this canary in the coal mine for larger issues, aging infrastructure, that we should start thinking about how we're budgeting going forward? It sounded like you said it's not, it's really a timing thing, but that's where the question was coming from, really.
So really two answers there. Yes, we will always, there's plenty of need out there for additional funding to address issues. But leaks specifically are, for the most part, unpredictable, and almost every single one is different. So the one this week was the one not the one today, but the one earlier this week, we believe it was because there was a lightning strike during the storm that happened on Tuesday morning, and the power to that building was grounded to a water line in, like their service line in their building. And so we think that triggered something along the pipe, and because the two happened almost simultaneously, so it's too much of a coincidence. So like that specific issue is, that's not anything to do with maintenance or anything else. That's just a circumstance that drove it. The one today we thought was a service leak, which is the line that goes to your house from the main pipe. And when we uncovered it, we realized there had been a repair probably many years ago, and that repair of a previous issue had basically come apart, and so, we had to fix that again. So, two completely different circumstances, but still water leaks.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just to follow up on something Andrew said, and I'm really going to ask the town manager. You made the proposal the other night to the select board for stabilization fund, capital stabilization fund. Were you contemplating town infrastructure in any of the issues you raised the other night? Because we've been talking about infrastructure for quite some time.
Right. So, so the stabilization fund would be exclusive of any water and sewer projects, because that would be paid through enterprise
The
fund.
enterprise fund, okay.
But we did ask all departments, inclusive of DPW, to give us some long-term planning. So I know it was quick when it was up on the screen, but there were some sort of major roadway projects on there.
Okay.
Not paving necessarily, that's outside of what we consider would be on the capital plan, but intersection improvements and things like that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Rod, you still have a question?
Yeah. So I think both last year and this year, we appropriated $50,000 from AFC Reserve Fund for this type of thing.
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
Okay. Whatever we had allocated before, I assume was all gone.
So.
Yeah, it would have been last fiscal
It
year.
would've been last year. Okay. Last year. There's $50,000 in the AFC, in the Water Reserve Fund now. We haven't spent any of it this year, so this will use all of it in one.
So this is
one day before the end of the year.
This is the 50 that's in there for this?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, when we voted at town meeting in 2022, March of 2022, right? Yes. So, starting on next week, there'll be 50,000 again, but it'll be a different year's budget.
Okay, I have one last question, and it really comes to the mechanics. So we're moving $50,000 to an enterprise fund, correct? Which means that the burden on the service payers, right, because an enterprise fund really is paid by service fees, is reduced by $50,000 because we've taken general tax fund, right? I mean, is that, no?
The
How does
water
that
fund
work
came
out?
from there.
Okay.
The water reserve comes from there and would have fallen back into there if it wasn't used.
Okay.
Just like, I assume the sewer one does the same thing in the country club.
It came from the
So
ratepayers.
this is actually coming from water reserve. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's coming
Perfect.
from
That makes
water
more
enterprise
sense.
and going
Got
back.
it.
But it allows you to have some flexibility
Right.
in your budget for emergencies.
Yep.
So it's actually working perfectly.
Yeah.
In a sense. Okay. Motion.
I make a motion to approve the transfer of $50,000 from AFC Reserve Fund to Water Operation Maintenance Contractual Services.
Bradley, second?
Second, any further discussion? No? Okay, roll call vote, Mike?
Already, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Ford, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes?
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
And that is 8008 present, and that is it for transfers. We're going to change direction now to ARPA. Let me get that folder up. We should have some little interim music here or something. So. go cut the
We
commercial.
can
Can I ask a question about ARPA funds? Just a general one? Hi. Can I ask?
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Yeah. So I don't know where, and I was traveling, I thought I heard that some of the ARPA funds were going to be clawed back by the state because there was a budget issue, and, or maybe it was the feds that were clawing it, but it would be clawed back if they weren't already spent. Is that a problem for us?
Christie can speak to it. It's not a problem at this time.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion around that related to the debt ceiling discussion at the federal level. But ultimately, they decided that they wouldn't touch any already dispersed ARPA funds to municipalities. We continue to hear that there's a possibility, there's, ever since we've gotten the money, there's this looming sort of threat, but it's not currently happening, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in our information package from Christie on the ARPAs, she did a very nice job summarizing the current proposals, a little discussion on what happened and past proposals, and a lot of items that were original proposals but got funded through other sources. So the process for reminder is the finance team, which I attended that meeting on Monday, made these recommendations. They now come to us for our approval, and then they will go to the select board in next month, probably, I guess, in a couple weeks. And so there was approximately $400,000 that is unaccounted, uncommitted, I should say, unaccounted. Hopefully we know where it is. And 7 items were recommended. And so we'll go through these. I'm going to go through them in the order of the booklet, because that's easiest for me. So the first one is from the Council on Aging / Senior Center. Director Alma Demanche is here, and she can help us with any questions. It's for 2 respite programs, one held at the senior center and one's an at-home program. These are respite for caregivers, and there was good description in the application. So I will see if there are questions, and then Alma, maybe you can come on up.
Could I ask a general question?
Sure.
So is our role just to say yes or no to these individual things, or, for instance, we think there's something that should be, the funding should be done differently? Do we have any say in that?
Our role is to say yes or no to these things, as far as I understand, correct?
Yeah, so the process that we've set up is that departments and potentially some committees that we had sent the information to but didn't actually end up applying would come up with projects similar to how we do our capital improvement plan. And then they would make recommendations, or they would make proposals. The finance team would review them, make recommendations, comes to you, and your action is really to recommend to the select board up or not, depending on the merits of the proposal in front of you. There's not within the process that we've set up an opportunity to sort of force any other project.
So,
I mean, because ARPA is somewhat unique, so this process was selected for that. And so ultimately, the select board is the authority that says
Right.
yes.
Well, and then also, depending on what the project is, the staff's ability to manage that project is what they've put forward.
can I just give an example? And so for instance, the fire department asked for $300,000, $100,000 was recommended. If somebody felt that the fire department should get the full $300,000 instead of something else, what would be the mechanism of, is there a mechanism for?
I think your mechanism, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think your mechanism would be you could vote no to the 100,000, and you guess you could vote no to all the other ones,
Right.
and then hope that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you would have to do, 'cause, right, 'cause there's a finite amount of money.
The finance team comes back and says, okay, well, let's do 300,000 for the fire department, because these other ones didn't. There isn't a direct way where we recommend 300.
Right, so we haven't had that experience, but I would actually agree that in order to have, obviously, to have the funds available, you would have to say no to other projects. So you would have to say no to whatever equated to that value, or all of them, or, you know, however you were going to get there.
Could we recommend defunding projects that had been previously approved?
That's not
Well,
the process.
Well, I'm just, if we say no, for example, then I think logically we would have to come up with another use for the funds, would we not?
Not us.
They would have to come back with another use for the funds.
Well, it would,
So,
I guess it would be up to Chrissy to
So
figure
the way
out
that-
what things would be reproposed.
the way that we've looked at it as like a grant program, so you wouldn't claw back a grant, that's some of this money that that has already gone through the process and has been awarded is under contract, or is already committed. So, and we've actually reported on it, through the federal government. So, but that being said, we do identify a couple projects that we think will not use their full funding. We just don't know yet, so it hasn't dropped down. But you have seen other monies drop down to the bottom line, not just the splash pad, but other projects. Additionally, we do earn interest on the money that is in the bank, and so that interest will continue to accumulate and would go through the same process. So.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so this first program, are there any questions more specific to the Daybreak program?
I guess I have a question. So, great use of funds. I'm just wondering, once this kind of grant mechanism is gone, have you thought of anything that you can do to keep that respite concept going?
Yeah, I mean, our full intention would be to put it into the budget, yeah. Actually, the part of this is, I mean, I don't want to speak for Alma, but, you know, we think it's.
She likes it.
We think it's a great program. One of the things that I think Alma identified in her materials and would say if she was up here, is that this was really speaks to what was identified as a need in the senior needs assessment. It actually is a little bit lower cost, than the 7,500, but the intention of the 7,500 was to make it actually free, for the first year, so.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Someone want to make a motion for us to recommend?
McMahon, make a motion to recommend the Daybreak program, the Council of Aging, for $7,500.
Bradley, second.
Second. Any further discussion?
I think he has to say where it's from, right?
Oh,
Recommend 7,500.
From ARPA funds.
From ARPA funds, yeah.
Okay.
Then I
Thank you.
second for sure. It sure is easy.
Okay.
Already, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so that's an 800 recommendation. Next up is DPW, Chris Payant, a lead service line investigation. This creates funding source for obtaining additional information on service lines listed as unknown in a grant-funded lead service line study that's going on currently. Are there any questions on this? It's quiet for this group. Okay, entertain a motion.
McMahon, I make a motion to recommend $50,000 from ARPA funds for the DPW lead service line investigation.
Second?
Bradley, second.
Any further discussion? Not? Michael?
Already, yes.
Lindbergh, yes.
Ford, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
So it is 7-1-0, 8 present. Okay. Third in line, downtown development plan is Fred. Oh, Fred's here. He's remotely. Fred Leonardo, our community development director, can speak to any questions. This is a $10,000 request for matching funds to a grant for creation of a downtown master plan. Are there any questions? Hearing crickets. Okay.
McMahon, I make a motion to approve the use of ARPA funds, $10,000 to support the community development downtown plan match.
Bradley, second?
I actually do have a question.
Oh, good.
Do we already have the grant for the matching funds, or are we applying for the grant?
I think you're muted, Fred.
He's off mute. No.
I can answer the question. We do not currently have the grant. So we applied for the grant through the Community One Start program with the state, which was due June 2nd. We acknowledged in the grant that we were going through this process, not that we had the money available. We'll find out in the fall if we get the grant or not. If we don't get the grant, that 10,000 would fall down to uncommitted balance.
And I assume that grant requires this being approved, right? The match is a contingency
You're supposed to
for
have
that
a
grant.
match. You can do in-kind match. But again, we were clear that we didn't necessarily have a match.
Okay.
So.
Can we contact them if this were approved to tell them that we do have a match where it might help our case?
Yeah, I can let them know.
If that's a requirement?
Yeah, I can let them know.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I know that certainly early on, there was a lot of concern as to how ARPA funds were going to be appropriately allocated and what the state would be considered appropriate. Of all the ways we've spent ARPA funds, this one is more unusually, to me, like, doesn't seem like it would be an ARPA compliant match. However, we have a ton more experience in this, in terms of what we know is being approved and what's not. So are we confident that this application of the funds is the kind of thing that would be approved? Or is there any risk that would be?
So we do feel that it's an appropriate use. It's actually similar to when we used the 250,000 for the Mass Works match,
Okay.
which we've already reported up and has not been flagged. There's more leeway than we had originally expected in the grant. To be really specific, though, about your question, once this goes to the select board, if they were to award it, then we put it through the system with our consultant, and they would kick it out if they thought it was an issue, and that happens very quickly. So,
Thank you. And I'd forgotten about the MassWorks. You're right. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Sure.
So the ARPA funds are time sensitive, correct?
yes,
And you won't know if you have the grant until the fall?
yes.
Which could mean what with regard to the sensitivity of time?
So they have to be committed by the end of calendar year 2024. So we would be able to meet that timeframe.
In fact, that's another reason we're here today, even though this is a somewhat inconvenient time of year to be doing this, is to get things going, because otherwise you lose, the summer, so. But you're right. And they have to be fully spent by 2026 or
Yes.
something, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I think we're in a good time frame still, but if you wait 6 months or a year, you're going to start getting
Yeah,
close.
I mean, I would say that you'll probably see us back more quickly than last time, because as we start to see any uncommitted balances, we want to make sure that they're getting allocated.
Sand's in the hourglass and it's upside down. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so we can vote. Mike?
Ready, yes.
Lindbergh, yes.
Ford, no.
Bradley, yes.
Jane? Thank you.
Clap, no.
Oh, it's me. Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so where do we end up? 2-0?
620,
6-2-0, okay. That's what I thought.
8 being present.
8 being present. Thank you, Fred. Sorry we couldn't hear you. but thank you.
Christie can read lips.
Yeah. Okay. So next up are two items from the fire department. The first one is technical rescue equipment, a purchase of an interstate roadway stabilization kit for a rescue truck. And the second one is hiring additional firefighters. So let's just deal with the first one, I think, first, and then we can talk about the second. So are there any questions for Chief Purcell on this first item?
I'd be curious to know the shelf life of this sort of a kit purchase. Is this a 10-year capital type purchase? Or how's it?
So it's a product called Paratech Struts, and it's a stabilization device. It's like struts for supporting unstable vehicles, primarily designed for tractor trailers. If you follow us on social media, you see that we do a high volume of tractor trailer rollovers, particularly on the Mass Turnpike, Route 9, and Interstate 495. The equipment that we have is mostly for smaller vehicles. We have a small amount of Paratech Strut equipments that we store here that are a part of a bigger group, but this one would be specifically a full kit for ourselves, so that if we had to operate with personnel trapped underneath a tractor trailer or something that makes it safe for our personnel, it lasts about 20 years, at least.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and apropos, I don't think you alluded to this, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
You alluded to this, clearly there's stuff that's out there, it's being used already. Whatever exists in the environment right now, we've been able to support this. You guys have done a ton of work with it. What is this investment getting us that we haven't had or that we don't have currently?
Increased safety and the ability to stabilize large vehicles. It really came to my attention to pursue this with the Interstate 495 and Mass Turnpike interchange project when the DOT did a study. And after they did their study and released the data, it made complete sense to me that if you didn't know this, 1 in 4 vehicles that pass through that interchange are a tractor trailer, which then when you think back of all of the tractor trailer crashes that we do, it made complete sense. So it just readies us to better respond to that incident, make it safer for our personnel to operate if they have, which we do now, sometimes unsafely, if we have somebody trapped in the cab of a truck, help to stabilize that so it doesn't roll over on top of us and kill us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Want to do a motion?
Sure. I make a motion to recommend $22,954 from ARPA funds for the fire technical rescue equipment.
Board second.
Second. Any other comments? Not? Michael?
Moretti, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
It's 800 favor. Okay. The next one is for recommended funding of $100,000 for additional person. I'd like to just give a little background on why the 300 versus the 100, from having attended the meeting and being part of that discussion. I can say that from my perception, everybody in the room was very much in agreement that Chief Purcell has made a persuasive agreement that we need the extra firefighters and that we should have them. The larger concern of why doing it all with ARPA versus another method for me was twofold. One was you're adding 3 people then without town meeting saying, basically having buy-in. And that this funding, by doing it that way, funded just 1 year. And so you're basically, through this process, signing up town meeting, unless you want to fire people, which I don't, to agree to that increase next spring. And so what the feeling was generally that if we could do one more this way, we previously, I believe, approved a person at the last town meeting, and we do 2 more at this October town meeting, which is really just 3 months away, put in an article and get people to agree. I know I would support an article like that. And we do it that way. It seemed to me a better process not to as circumvent the town meeting process, basically. And so that was my feeling, and I believe that was shared by others in the group. We are also, though, concerned about the logistics for fire department, which is busy enough, and whether there's efficiencies in, you know, bringing in more people at once or not, and some of that. But I fully support the idea of having more help in that group. You can see they brought in an extra $500,000 this year in ambulance funds than expected because they have higher volume than we're dealing with. So with that said, that's where the thought process is specifically with ARPA. And I think we should expect, if we pass this, to see an article at the next town meeting for the additional 2.
So who's overseeing that higher volume that generated the 500,000?
Is that a question for the chief?
No, for you, since you were in that meeting, I guess.
Who's overseeing it?
Yeah.
So that's the
I don't
revenue that comes in
understand.
from the ambulance that goes to the
From-
general.
From the guys
Yeah.
that we currently have going out. The
Correct?
guys that are already taxed and spent and, you know, working on very little. They're asking for 3 more bodies. I don't think that's an unreasonable request when you look down at some of the lower, below that, some of the other requests. Or the fact that this community wants to put in $100,000-something dog park. Something catastrophic is going to happen. And I guess that's when everybody will go, oh man, we should have given them the resources. You can't keep doing this to people in these types of professions.
Okay.
Could we hear from
Comments
the
or questions?
chief?
Sure. We have to ask him a question, or do you want to just generally speak, or?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chief, you asked us to review your presentation. What specifically in that presentation were you going to address?
I didn't know how this meeting was going to go tonight. I wanted to be prepared and to give you information that I presented at the budget summit. I should have provided you a timeline of our request for the staffing. We started last year when we asked for ARPA money, and I agreed to defer and apply for a SAFER grant. Whenever we have tried to increase our staffing, with the exception of the body that starts in July 1st, we have sought alternative funding, which through the SAFER grant, and we got about $1.5 million to do that for over 3 years. We failed at the SAFER grant, which frankly I anticipated, as we had just gotten one. It was unlikely we were going to get 2. We went to present it at the budget summit for 4. We got 1. We came back for ARPA for 3. We got 1. We pushed off till next town meeting, whenever that is. It's not like they vote in October. They start in October and they're fully functioning. We have to buy personal protective equipment, put them through the fire academy, go through a hiring process. So it's really a year after that before they're, part of the operation. And then not just to, I typically come before you and I present with hardcore data and not emotion, but like literally what I presented to you at the budget summit. I'm sorry to tell you I was right. Our call volume this year is already on pace to exceed the last year by 300 more calls. We have had more property loss in the first 6 months of this year than we did all of last year. We lost a life this year. We had firefighters burned this year. It's not a great situation right now. I'm absolutely going to take the 1. I'm starting to struggle with the safety part of doing this job. When I put a picture up at the budget summit, I put up the 4 key pieces of apparatus that we operate: an engine, a ladder, and 2 ambulances. We traditionally close the ladder to staff the 3rd ambulance unless we're at minimum staffing. We close the ladder truck to staff the 2nd ambulance. We're doing push 4,000 ambulance calls when we're usually at minimum staffing of 8. 8 people are doing 20 to 30 calls per day. That is a lot of calls. That is a lot of lifting people. That is a lot of putting on turnout gear, air packs, climbing to high rises. That is a lot of work. It's dangerous. And I identified at that time that we were at a crossroads between being able to cross-staff apparatus and permanently man apparatus. We are here. I am respectful of my peers that work for the town and their need for projects. I don't disagree with any of the projects that we need. I just wish this had worked out better for me. I know that people are doing the best that they can, as are we. Other things that I highlighted with the Pulte project, I'm about to sign off my share of another 50-unit apartment building that's opening. I brought forward the Sharp plan that was going on, Sharp building. That sprinkler system is being installed now. It's not gonna, the call volume's not gonna go down. Frankly, our mutual aid has gone down and our volume in here in town has gone up, continued to escalate. But, and I mean, I'm not making that up. You see that in the revenue. So I'm disheartened, but I understand. We will come to work, do our very best, and I know at some points we will get where we need to be. I just wish that this had worked out better this time, but I'm thankful for what I got.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah, Christie, what's the significant amount of money that is going to impact the 2025 budget? Because I'm looking at the email that you, the email that you sent to us, which Walter forwarded, and it said if we funded all 3 of these positions, the funding would not incrementally roll into the budget, but would increase the budget by a significant amount in 2025?
Right, so the discussion at the finance team was
Yes.
that we would fully fund it, and if we fully funded it in this fiscal year, the cost of all 3 of those employees would hit in 1 year, as opposed to, as you can see, the SAFER grant and the police department ARPA projects, which were incrementally going onto the budget.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess.
That's
So what we're
the
trying
amount
to
we were
do
talking
is
about.
accelerate the hiring of 2 additional firefighters if we have funded all 3. Is that correct?
Can you, I don't understand.
Well, in other words, you're going to fund 1
Correct.
through
So,
ARPA,
right,
and then go to the town meeting for the additional 2.
correct.
So what we're trying to do is accelerate, if we funded them completely from ARPA funds,
Right.
we're accelerating it by 6 months. 3
The
months.
impact to the taxes?
Well, they're being able to hire someone, right? So in theory.
Well,
we
right,
don't
right. I
really
guess I'm
choose to hire
I guess I'm just not following you. So,
Okay.
so the point of that comment was the discussion at the finance team, which was that if you didn't incrementally add these, if you incrementally add these positions, then the impact to the taxpayer isn't as significant in a single year. That's all.
I guess what I'm saying is what's more important for the expenditure of funds?
I'm just
Then
telling you
public
what the
safety.
discussion was.
Well, I'm asking that question. What's more important than public safety?
I'm just telling you what the discussion was, Mike.
I-
I mean,
unfortunately,
I'm not the
You're not
finance.
answering my question.
What's more important than
What's
public
more
safety?
important
Public
than
safety is
public safety?
extremely important, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
I
think
agree.
it's your number 1 responsibility. So is there any way that we can fund these positions?
You-
For example, you have to refresh my memory, what did we do about the dog park?
We're going to vote on that tonight.
It's 107,000. We expect to spend about 60% of that, because there's
That's another
contingency.
body. What's more important,
mean-
firefighters or dog parks is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Obviously,
Now, if
public safety is more
Yeah.
important. I'm not sure why, I mean, this was a process that we have all been a part of,
I get
so.
that, I was a part of it.
Yep.
I understand that, and the decisions were difficult. But, we don't get paid to make the tough decisions, unfortunately, you do. And all I'm asking is there some way we can figure out through the ARPA funding to accelerate the hiring of these firefighters because of what the chief just explained to us, that onboarding them is not that quick a process?
there's a finite amount of dollars. So as we mentioned, you would have to not approve projects. So,
Yeah.
yes, then that's the answer.
So if we say, and I know the library's gonna be pissed at me. 'cause
No,
they're gonna
that's not
say-
recommended for funding.
But if you, there's 200,000 right there.
But that's not
Yeah.
recommended, so that's not part of it.
Okay, okay, even below it, security cameras,
No, those are,
there's gotta be.
so,
for me, I think the bigger point is adding people with, I believe in the town meeting system, and I believe that if it was so critical, then I guess shame on us for not bringing an article last March, which is 3 months ago, to have added these people, even if we added them in October. But we didn't.
so
Well,
why be
I do
shame
want
on
to
us-
say though,
Why be shame on us, in October if
Because
We have an opportunity now.
because then it would have been voted by town meeting, the legislative body, to
Yes, I
do this.
understand that.
And that, I think, is very important.
so,
I mean, I think that's the whole reason I'm on AFC to begin with. We give recommendations to town meeting. And so I consider that process very important. And if we want to be a city with a city council and a mayor, then those decisions are made that way, and then you could probably do that, but it's not the way the town
People
operates.
move to towns for 2 reasons: safety of the town and schools, right? I'm thinking
You're
that's why
saying it.
anybody, I'm not from here, but that is why I picked.
I mean, that's why
Westborough.
I live here, and Chief Purcell was at my house at 1 o'clock in the morning when it was on fire 6 months ago, right? I can certainly appreciate. So I have a hard time with approving one-time funds for salaries.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I have a one-time.
Hi, can I make a, after you're done, can I talk?
I have a hard time with using one-time funds to approve salaries, right? Because I think that puts Chief Purcell in a position where he now has to go to the town and say, look, I need to keep these people. Or we make a short-term commitment, which we also can't do. I also can appreciate the urgency. I'm curious, because I wasn't on the board, were these positions asked for as part of the budget process and we didn't?
I think strategic planning.
they were, can I just,
Yeah.
so they were asked for as part of the budget process, and we presented to the community that we would recommend that they be funded through ARPA. We presented that every time we presented the budget.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we had initially, rather than asking the town to fund these positions at the town meeting, we had suggested that we could fund them from ARPA,
Yes.
which is a very important criteria, I think, right? So my concern is I don't want to make decisions for the town with one-time funds that obligate them to pay salaries in the future. But if that's what we communicated was the plan to begin with, I mean, then I feel like that's already what we have expressed our intention to do. And we're in the same
Can
position if
I-
we don't fund them.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Beth.
Beth.
Hi, so I hope you guys can hear me. This was actually suggested by someone else, but can we consider funding all 3 positions now for the first 3 months? And then then go to town meeting and ask for the rest of the funds, which is a little bit weird possibly for the people who are being hired. But that way we can fund them all now, bring them on board on time, and then ask the town, because we have been so behind on funding fire department for so long, we need these people.
So you're saying a third of a year's salary for 3?
I'd say that's a
Yeah.
decision for the chief to
Yeah.
make, and
Probably need a little more money because there's
So,
equipment in
can I
there.
comment on that?
Yeah.
I would advise against that, because you're going to have a poor candidate pool. Nobody's going to leave their job not knowing if it's funded in 3 months.
Well, it was a try.
And I appreciate that. Can I just comment on one more thing? Public safety is very important, but it's also, there are some equally important things that the manager has to balance. Water, sewer, we can't survive without those things, education. So I do validate that. I'm just impressing upon my position going forward after tonight. So I'm the one person, I'm gonna live with that, but I really need your support going forward at the next opportunity. So I didn't want to see her getting put in a position over, is public safety the most important? And I'm the fire chief, so I think fire is the most important. No, I'm just kidding. But it is a shared
Good job.
responsibility. We're in a weird time. She's walking a high wire act. Our infrastructure below ground that no one sees needs work. I validate that. Policing, fire, EMS, schools, everybody, we're challenged with a lot of things going on in this town.
So you would accept a vote tonight to do the 100,000?
I'm not thrilled, but yes, because I want to make this, now that I've opened Pandora's box, yep, yes, but I really need your support at the next available opportunity to fund those spots. I really need your support going forward after tonight. It's important.
And for the record, I do include health,
I know.
infrastructure, in public safety.
And the building commissioner,
I don't include dog
forgot him
parks,
too.
if you'll forgive me for saying that.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, the reason I asked the question at the beginning was...
You started it all.
Honestly, when I think of, in my mind, what I think of the things that ARPA should be used for is things like that. I mean, it just, that's the crux of, and the reality is, any of the ARPA funds, or most of the ARPA funds, don't go through town meetings. That's just the cross we have to work with. So, I would recommend this board not vote for something else to allow the town to go back and fund the 3 positions.
Okay. And it isn't that the ARPA funds don't go through town, it's that most positions that are added do go through town meeting. We did do the police, but that was a incredible, way overdue and a 3-year slow rolling kind of thing too.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I wasn't on this committee. Y'all did a strategic plan, correct? Prior to COVID?
The town did, yeah.
Okay. And I think after that, police and fire both came forward, and there were supposed to be so many people hired over the course of time. And then COVID hit, and that stuff got pushed to the side. We didn't necessarily hire in the same timeline. Is that right or no?
It was true, yes, that's right with police, yes.
And that's not accurate with fire?
No. There were no positions proposed for that time period.
Okay.
But wasn't there in the overall plan, they were still short?
Yes, the overall plan does call for additional firefighters and other positions. I'm just telling you that we did defer police positions, we didn't defer firefighter positions.
Because we had the SAFER grant, I think, right?
Well, the SAFER grant,
Was
right, so
earlier.
the SAFER grant
Yeah.
came in 2018, and that didn't fully get funded or fully move on
20.
to the tax levy until 20.
But the overall plan did call for more firefighters?
Yes, in future years, yes.
Okay. We're at the future.
I believe it's FY '25.
So, I think it's now for overtime, with supporting of overtime, which I can't fill shifts now.
How many more?
Can I say one thing about the
Sure.
strategic plan for the fire department? So when that was done in 2017, released in 18, we were doing 3,700 calls a year, and there was expected to be a slow growth. Nobody anticipated COVID-19. Nobody expected the demise of private EMS, and really nobody, like, the impact of the legislation that we have here in the Commonwealth with the right to shelter state and what it would do to just a smaller community like us. So really, our strategic plan for the fire department needs to get redone again at some point, because it's off, which is why I'm here now. If somebody told me I was gonna be doing 5,300 calls, emergencies only, in 2023, I would have said there's no way, but it's happening. So that's really, so 24 called for increasing our minimum through overtime, 25 for firefighters, 28 four more firefighters, and that's where it ended.
Can I ask just one more question? So I'm just thinking, if we had a train derailment in this town, which is a possibility because we have a trestle that gets hit all the time, and I mean, it could happen. What would something like that look like to the force that you have now?
Well, it would depend what it was hauling. You're talking about varying things. If it's a commuter rail, it's going to be a massive EMS response and technical rescue. If it's full of chemicals, it's going to be a hazardous materials response, and then also involving the utility companies. We would enact mutual aid partners and fire mobilization plan, et cetera, et cetera. So we would be calling on a lot of assistance for that, but that's the reality of that type of incident.
Just curious. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I-
Do you have some? Yeah, sure.
I just want to say one more thing that's not really specific to this project, but the process that we're going through is a collaborative project. It's not one person making the decision. Several people on the finance team, all of you, and the select board. That's the process that we created. I am proud of, and I think we should all be proud of, if you look further down in that memo, all of the things that were requested when we first found out we were getting this money, and our ability to fund them regardless of whether it was through ARPA or alternative sources. So I think that we have made an effort to work hard to identify appropriate projects and to fund them, even though we only have 5.7 million to work with. So, thanks.
Gene, you want to make a motion and then you can
Sure.
continue after that?
McMahon, I make a motion to recommend $100,000 of ARPA funding for the additional firefighters.
Is there a second?
Bradley, second?
Okay, further discussion. Beth, your hand's
Can
up.
we,
I didn't know if you were.
yeah, actually, I left it up, but I have a question. Can we make a friendly amendment that if ARPA funds are returned, they apply towards the fire department?
That's, I think, out of our purview.
No,
If-
she said.
right.
All right, well, so,
Chris-
I mean, you
says
could
we
say
can.
that, but I mean, that it would, ARPA funds return, it'll go back to the finance team to make a recommendation to here. I mean, you,
okay.
I'll yield to you, Christie. on
I mean,
that.
that has been our process, but we haven't had a
Yeah.
proposal that has so much conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I don't see any harm in making that recommendation from this committee.
Oh, it's,
And-
okay, so that's our recommendation.
And then maybe,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it would kind of go back down and then back up. But I think
Yeah.
that
Okay.
if that's what this committee wants to vote, then I think that you should feel comfortable voting that.
If you think it's in bounds, then it's in bounds. Okay, you can make that amendment as
Okay.
long as someone seconds.
I'll second it.
So the first vote's on the amendment, and the second vote.
No, I think we're just amending the main motion, if that's okay with people. Like, we will vote on a motion to recommend a funding of $100,000 and further recommend to the finance team that if more money in ARPA becomes available, it goes to the fire department.
I would like to separate those votes, if we may.
Okay, so I should do the amendment
We
first.
should do the amendment first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Can I hear more about
About
why
why?
you want to separate them?
Because,
I'm just trying to
because
figure out what,
personally, I'm comfortable with the existing process, which is not compelling anybody, and if 20,000 comes up, what's that gonna do for the fire department, because they can't hire anybody, and now we're recommending, it just seems like kludgy to me. I'm very comfortable with what we have right now, but if it's the will of this committee to make that as an appended motion to the original amendment, so be it. It's just, my support's one.
If it's cleaner to do it in two, it's the recommendation of the committee.
I mean, I think we could
It's the
just,
sense of the committee, that
Mhm.
any funds that are
I
returned.
think it's
to-
trying to say
Can I finish?
that we
please,
think
Ben?
this is important.
guess not.
Yeah,
Clearly
Sorry.
cannot.
Go ahead.
okay. It's our recommendation that any funds that come back are held until a sufficient amount is available to proceed with the fire department hiring or onboarding.
I mean, I wonder
That's all
though,
I'm-
if,
That's all we're talking about. That's why if we separate them, we get a clean vote on each one.
Okay.
if the process really is the finance committee to review it first, though, I think that they get the idea, right? Our preference would be we look at any of the uncommitted funds, and if we can fund an additional position, and is it necessary, right, to
Well, I
formally
guess
work?
just
And
by-
I mean, there's no harm in it, I guess,
By
but,
separating it out, it gives a strong message of support to the
Yeah.
fire department to add additional people. So certainly, even if the ARPA funds weren't, I would expect that same feeling if a warrant article came up in October. So maybe separating makes sense, because
Yeah.
it's just a recommendation anyway.
Since we're talking about process.
Okay, so let's vote on the recommendation.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So are we separating the vote on the amendment, or are we separating this into two separate motions so that we'll have two recommendations?
Two separate motions.
Okay, thank you.
It's not an amendment, it's a separate motion.
Okay.
And the motion we'll deal with first is a recommendation that if there are additional ARPA funds, they be provided to the fire department, specifically additional positions. And that was, who did that?
Yep.
Who did that
Seconded
motion?
by Melanie.
Board.
Oh,
But Beth was.
That was
the
Beth's
rec-
motion. I'm trying to help our secretary with this one. That was Beth's motion and Melanie's second. Okay, so
Because we're still commenting.
you can
Because,
discuss that.
okay, because I do want to send a very strong message of support to the fire department, but the reality is if and when money comes up to be discussed again, we have to discuss it at that point in time if the fire department is still the highest priority. It might not be, COVID-23, what have you. I don't know, but I still want to show love, but I just don't believe this amendment is the way to do it, so there we
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments? If not, let's vote on this motion.
Which motion? The amendment
Yeah.
motion?
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Let's
it's
now
really a
vote.
separate
Separate
motion
motion.
on the
To
additional
residual
funds
funds.
going to the fire department.
Moretti, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, no?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so 710 on that particular thing, which isn't a particular item. So now we go to the main item, which is the motion for $100,000 from ARPA funds to fund one position at the fire department. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mike?
Moretti, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes?
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so that one is 800 and passes. Okay. Thank you, Chief. I think we're done with your stuff now. Okay, next up. Feel bad for Mary Ann having to come up, Maureen having to come up after this one. Okay. Next up is a recommended project to replace 8 desktop computers, 2 laptops. The 8 desktop computers are public computers, the 2 laptops are for staff, and 10 monitors at a proposed cost of $19,500 with Maureen Amiat here, our library director, to answer any questions. Mr. R? Any questions?
I'm curious about our normal replacement cycle, right? Do we have a normal replacement cycle for computers? Are these additional?
So these are additional to what we normally replace. We're on a schedule where we replace 3 computers each year. And in the preparation for this request, we realized that with the number of computers we have in the library, 3 per year is not enough. And we're going to be working on a technology plan that hopefully we'll be able to bring through the capital expenditures process this fall.
How many computers do you have? 3 out of how many are replaced?
We have 28. Not enough.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also, I think part of this was a thought of, when the library rebuild was gonna happen, that was a different, maybe technology switch than what we're doing now.
Yeah, correct. And we weren't sure if the renovation and expansion project had passed, what our temporary space would be and what we would be able to bring with us. And then we were trying to plan for technology not being purchased and stored in a closet or being purchased and becoming obsolete while we were in transition. So things are still a little bit in flux, but our technology is lagging.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, is this come as, whatever the quote is and whatever the plan is it done in consultation with John Green and the rest of the town? Or is this something, a decision that's being managed just purely within the library?
It's managed through the library. John doesn't work with us on technology.
I thought he does the whole town though, doesn't he? Or is he just the
He's
school?
schools.
He's just schools, okay. Doesn't the town have somebody for IT?
Yeah, Mark Stockman.
Excuse me, Mark Stockman.
He doesn't do technology for the library. We have a
Okay.
technology librarian that manages our technology.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Does that mean this is outside of any purchasing agreement that the town uses?
It's under the state contract.
Okay, so you're still, okay.
Any other questions, comments? How about a motion?
McMahon, I make a motion to recommend $19,500 of ARPA funding for the library computer equipment.
Is there a
Bradley, second?
Second. Any other discussion? If not, Mike?
Already, yes.
Beth?
Sorry, was muted. Lundberg, yes.
Board, no.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
That is 7-1-0 in favor.
Thank you.
Maureen. And she can go home. Last but certainly not least is our able superintendent, who's also trying to get away, Amber Bach. And we can hear you, good. Is John joining?
Good, yeah, I just, John Green is also here, and I think he'll probably turn on his camera and check his voice.
Okay, we're not seeing him yet. Oh, there he is. Hello, John.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, so this next project is a proposal of $174,000 for, out of a total of 230-something thousand, with another, more money coming from a grant for Mill Pond security cameras. And we did get another, I don't know if people had a chance to read the email that we got later with some explanation, but certainly if you have any questions, we can start with that and go from there. Does anybody have any questions? Andrew, oops, sorry.
So I read the proposal and I saw that all the references made and the justifications seem to be around the cost and the familiarity. But with familiarity also comes some understanding. What I didn't get any feedback on was like performance metrics. Now, I don't know, I can imagine what school security camera systems are, but I'd imagine things like uptime and response time to service. Is the vendor we have right now meeting all of the KPIs we have for maintaining the highest level of quality so that they should be included in this? Or is this a chance where we can say we have experience with this vendor and we should be setting a different standard?
So John and I will answer that together. There's a lot of feedback, so it's hard to hear you guys. It's kind of muddled. So if we have to ask for clarification. So John, I don't know if you want to pick that up, I mean, and just talk about the vendor selection, what it does for us and why we work with this system.
Yeah, sure. And as you said, I had a hard time hearing the question with the echo going on. So if I don't answer the question, then I didn't hear in its full. So in terms of vendor selection, so this system at Mill Pond is identical to the one at the high school and at Highlands. So it integrates and meshes with our existing systems, keeping everything compatible and everything unified. Like it's a unified management and access for the security cameras.
Additionally, it provides access to our police and fire for their safety, a first responder intervention for both fire, emergency rescue, intruder needs, and also from our component of school leadership, law students, confrontation assessment. The cameras provide a whole array, but after the increase in school shootings over the last year, the school committee directed us to seek this quality of camera that we have at 4 of our schools to provide consistency so that Mill Pond would be this next one up, and we would still have Armstrong and Hastings in the future. This would bring it parallel to Fales, the preschool Gibbons, and the high school.
Amber, I think I don't know if you can hear clear enough, but his question was really, is the vendor performing at the level that you would like? In other words, you're satisfied with their service and their ability to perform, not just their equipment?
Yeah, thank you. They are excellent. I'm telling you, the quality of camera management, storage, responsiveness for fixing things. I mean, John can speak to it, but from a user standpoint, we've been really happy.
Yes, 100%.
Your question? Go ahead, keep going.
Given the use of life for equipment like school cameras, could we talk about if we're replacing a system because we want one better, or are we replacing a system that is coming to end of life, and we would be doing this as a matter of course in the next year or two anyways?
There isn't a camera system that's at end of life at Mill Pond, if that's what you're asking. They don't have an interior camera system at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the only camera availability for security at Mill Pond is the door entrance. And there is no interior hallway monitoring. So the level of camera security that we have that allows for fire and police to see the hallways and for us to attend to that level of management in crisis is what this would provide.
Thank you.
Rod?
I guess my question is, what are the town regulations or guidelines in terms of sole sourcing a vendor versus getting competitive bids? I don't know who can answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, John can speak to it, but certainly a proprietary bid spec for keeping equipment consistent across the buildings is a practice that our MCPPOs have leveraged within compliance to the guidelines.
Sure.
So, Pat Purcell, your fire chief, if you remember back at the fall, Springtown meeting, we received funding for a camera system as part of a larger project for the community. I looked into that, and because we're building off of an existing system already, you needed to have like hardware, like software, and also future service agreements. So we didn't have overlapping service technicians trying to fix each other's systems. So there is leeway in the procurement law that gives them some breathing room to build onto the existing infrastructure within the school department. Make sense?
Thanks. Any other questions? Matt, would you like to make a motion that we can put in play?
Yep. McMahon, I make a motion to recommend $174,000 of ARPA funding for the school security cameras.
Bradley, second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mike?
We're ready, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Board, no.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
So that is 6-2-0, 8 present, in favor. So I will, I guess, do I send you a note for the select board? or-
You could probably send the votes to the select
Yes.
board. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Can I actually ask
Yeah.
just to reconsider the fighter vote, because the motion was to The motion was to award the $100,000 for one. When we were in the finance team meeting, I had proposed that we give them at least the $100,000. It was a round number. And so I guess my request would be that you just give them the $100,000 for hiring, and then that the chief would be able to use that for more than just the one.
Okay.
I think that actually was what the motion was, because I read it off of here for additional firefighters.
Okay, it's, I
It
heard
wasn't
one,
anything about one firefighter.
You said one.
I did?
Yeah.
I wrote it down, because I was like,
because we need to
Okay.
know.
Okay.
So would we have to actually re-vote, or we just agree with that?
I think that you should probably, if you don't mind
Okay.
revoting,
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's for the
that's fine. We'll do that
record,
quick.
that would be helpful.
Okay, so the motion is to vote in favor of giving the fire department $100,000 of ARPA funds
To fill
for additional
positions.
positions. And that way they could buy more equipment and one person or whatever they gotta do with the $100K. Okay.
Did you just make a motion?
I guess I just made a motion.
McMahon
Leslie
second.
motion. Because otherwise someone's got to repeat that. Okay, and just going back,
Is it seconded?
Yes.
we were 800 as a reminder. Okay,
And,
so,
and does this automatically replace the other motion? Like,
yes,
we know it does, but,
Okay.
okay, it's to replace
Yes.
the other motion.
instead of the other motion.
Yep.
Yes, okay. Mike,
Moretti, yes.
Lumberg, yes.
board, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Okay, so we passed $100,000 of, as I said. Okay, very good.
Before I head out, I just want to thank you all for the conversation. I'm gonna head out. I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow, so I'm gonna pack. I want to
Have a good.
thank you for the thoughtful conversation. As always, I appreciate it, guys. So take care. Have a good Fourth.
Okay, and I know
Thank you.
Melanie
Bye, bye,
and
bye,
Beth
bye.
are both doing that, as is our town manager, so we're going to try to get her out of here quickly, too. The next item on the agenda was we wanted a little bit of an update on the youth and family service hiring, briefly, or any other employment vacancies? Comment on?
Sure. So we've had several vacancies. They are listed on the website. Our treasurer collector is retiring tomorrow. Our police chief's last day is tomorrow. We also had someone leave in the Youth and Family Services Department, our director. We've been trying to hire a counselor in that department since last fall. The economic development coordinator or director position is open. And then we have new positions. So new position in DPW for tree work, new position in IT for systems network administrator, new position in community development, sustainability coordinator / community development assistant. Whenever we have a vacancy, particularly of an existing position, we review the job description to make sure it's relevant, to make sure that the requirements are still appropriate. And we've made lots of changes as those positions have come up. Our director of planning, our new director of planning starts July 5th. And then we post the position on the website, but also throughout several organizations. So depending on what the position is, we post with professional organizations, we post with colleges, we post on the Mass Municipal website, sometimes we post on the International City Managers Association website. So it really just depends on the actual position. We are aware that Mass Taxpayers Foundation just came out with an article about the labor market in Massachusetts and the lack of labor in Massachusetts. We specifically see that in the municipal sector. There are several open positions and people have availability to move around. I think that we need to balance our vacancies with the understanding that some of them are retirements and some of them are new positions. So in terms of the youth and family services specifically, that's a very difficult labor market to to recruit from. And then you layer in the fact that you're requesting, someone would be coming into a municipal environment. That's not, that's not a natural, or I guess an obvious part of that space. So we've been working on it. We've been trying to recruit. We've had some interviews, but we also feel very strongly that we bring in the right candidate and not just someone to fill the position. So.
And that one has some very specific degree requirements or
Yes.
supervision kind of requirements?
You're right. So there's the requirements for there's social work. I don't have it in front of me, but there's requirements for licensing that the director is required to have because they supervise counselors. In the interim, we have continued to provide counseling to the community, and we've brought back actually a retired counselor who has filled in for us so that we can continue to provide that service. We've started to look at, maybe what other communities are doing to try to, obviously it's an important position that we want to fill. So that's what we've worked with the chair of the youth commission, who is professionally in that space. So.
Okay, any questions beyond this?
I guess the only question, is there an opportunity to outsource somehow to a firm, at least temporarily, till the position could be filled?
The challenge with that is that the majority of that budget is in salary and wages, and we can't move the money for fiscal '24 from salary and wages without a town meeting vote to expenses. So, not outside of the realm of looking into, but that's the challenge. That's one of the challenges.
So it could be something if it looked possible that you can do in October, but.
Right.
I mean, it just seems whether we'll ever get to hiring somebody, maybe that, but I don't know how many of those firms exist that.
We use one for the police department.
The police department can't fill the position. So.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the mental health area.
So the police department uses advocates. They actually, now we have a full-time, we used to share that position with other communities. Now we have a full-time, and they have been unable to fill that position. So it's a very difficult space.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not for lack of trying. So
what do we have, about 10 open positions in the town?
9,
9?
according to the website.
okay, so that,
And there might be others that are not
I don't know, is
yet
that
posted
inclusive
or
of
something.
seasonal positions on there?
It doesn't look like seasonal. It does include a substitute minibus driver, though. So I
Oh, darn.
feel
There
like
you go,
that's,
Mike.
It's still open.
We are not unique in what's going on, and we talk about this at conferences. I mean, it's difficult to fill. We're certainly doing things. I don't know if you watch the select board meeting, we are asking the board to approve a remote work policy, which could offer some recruitment opportunities. A year or so ago, we asked for authorization from the select board, which we got, to allow me to approve an additional week's vacation if someone was coming from somewhere else and asked for that. We're working on it, but.
I don't know the youth and family director responsibilities. I suppose I can go back and look at the brochure, the
We're hiring, so it's on the website. Just kidding.
I guess, is there room for a discussion where that's just not the kind of work the town needs to be involved in, and I don't know what it looks like?
I would say that we had that discussion in 2016. We, the board at the time formulated what they called the service level study committee, and that was one of the departments that they looked at. I think that we've all seen that need for mental health support in the community grow since then. So I don't foresee that as something that goes away, but maybe something that we need to look at more critically in terms of how we offer that.
So, and that need for mental health support can also be paid by supporting co-pays for people to go in a health plan somewhere. That's not the town supporting it. I'm just thinking off the cuff.
That discussion has come up in the past. So
Okay.
yes, but yes.
Okay.
I'm curious, so you said the police department has a similar sort of position, the part-time social, I mean, I have to assume a part-time position is going to be more difficult to fill. There are certain requirements for the director level. I assume we've looked at how could we re-engineer positions that might make them easier to fill, right? Could we turn that part-time social worker into a full-time social worker that could cover that licensing requirement, or maybe cover both areas? But have we looked at some options there to try and market the positions, I guess, right?
Yeah, so with the previous director, the counselor position that's currently available, when that came open, we looked at it with the director at the time, and that this was the need that she saw. We actually had marketed it or advertised it at one point as sort of being flexible. Maybe it could be split in 2 positions depending on what someone's need was. Certainly part of the challenge of it being full-time, or at least the conversation is that then it's fully benefited. So there's obviously the additional cost to that. But at the time, in working with the director and the members of the commission, they felt like that part-time was appropriate. So, but.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a good vacation.
Thank you.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thanks.
Okay, next up are minutes to approve of June 1st, 2023. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve? Shafford, motion to approve.
Bradley, second?
Bradley, second. Any discussion? Hearing none. That's still here. Okay, Mike.
Already, yes.
Blumberg's abstain.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Stafford, yes. Okay, it's been a long meeting, I think. So if anybody have any somewhat urgent liaison reports or future meeting
I think
discussion?
we've talked to everyone tonight.
Uh-oh.
Just before you wrap up, I'd like to speak.
Yeah, that's okay. We're not wrapping up completely.
Oh, okay,
We're
just
looking-
let me know.
Okay.
Damn.
In terms of our next meeting, if there is any emergency, some kind of transfer, we're allowed to transfer money till the 15th of the next month. I don't expect, I think we've collected them all now, but we might just do a Zoom meeting or something on one item. If we had to, not next week, but the week after and the last week, if that is needed. If not, anticipating us getting back together near the end of August, as the warrant starts to cook up for October, mid-October town meeting.
I guess I should have noticed it, but we didn't get, there's no more chances of a snow and ice removal hangover that we still need to fund out of our budget or anything, so
The
this is,
snow and ice is below budget.
okay.
It did, we moved one from.
We bought
late-
more salt.
We
We
already,
bought our
Salt
salt,
with
we
the rest
did
of
that
it. Salt.
at one meeting.
Got a
yeah.
bargain on it, too.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're gonna end the year with about 150 and.
190.
after
Sorry,
we-
205 minus 70, yeah, about 190,000
Okay, 190,
in that
okay.
reserve, yes.
Okay.
In the
Yeah.
snow?
No,
No, in ours.
reserve.
Oh,
The
the
Snow and
reserve.
ice has
Oh.
a few thousand left.
Oh, yeah,
They're
yeah.
pretty much
Yeah.
using it up on repairs
Magically.
and stuff like that. Okay, and one other item. This is Mike's last meeting and on the board, and we got a little
Stop smiling so much.
token of appreciation for him.
Listen,
We want to see sorrow.
he finally understands.
I understand better now than I did 2 months ago on how much you've done for us, Mike, so
Thank you.
this is a little token to remember us by. Yeah. And thank you for your time. I'm sure John might like to say a few things as well.
Yeah, just wanted to be here to acknowledge Mike's last meeting here. In March of 2019, it seemed like such a simple task to come on the Finance Committee because what could possibly go wrong? And then Mike quickly took on a leadership role, became chair, and then right when COVID hit, Mike helped guide the committee through some very difficult meetings where and times where we never knew when the town meeting was going to be. We had cut down warrants, we had then other things, and so I just wanted to, on behalf of not just the other committee members, but on behalf of the voters in town, I wanted to thank you for stepping up so quickly to take on leadership and never wincing during what were very trying and difficult times that nobody had experienced before. So it was very hard for any of us to offer the guidance because we were all figuring it out. So thank you and best wishes, and keep sending people my way.
I will. It's been a real pleasure working with everybody. You know, we've all had our different opinions, but it's, you know, we came to conclusions, and I really want to thank you guys for your support when I was chair, and good luck to all of you. And I'm sincere about that. And you'll see me again at some point.
When I was looking at getting this, it's a little plaque of your service here. I asked John how long he'd been here, and I was shocked to find out you'd
It
been here
seemed like forever, but it was only like
4+ years, which meant you were pretty much vice chair or chair the entire time you were
I
here.
served a year and a half under,
Sean
Sean,
Keogh.
no, before Sean.
With
sorry.
Jody?
Jody.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Sean, and then he decided.
You were
to
vice
move
chair
up.
under
Yeah.
I
Sean.
was vice
Yeah.
chair,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
Mike
amazing.
and I can share we agreed to be vice chair, figuring like, well, that'll give me a couple of years to learn. And then, in my case, when I was appointed vice chair, the person who was chair like 3 months later moved out of town. And then Mike started doing it, and then Sean decided to run for select board, so.
Yeah, we
Thank you,
just say.
folks.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Mike.
It'll,
Thank you, Mike.
Large crowd gathered here.
this will go in a good place.
I appreciate it, and my understanding is at our next meeting, John's got somebody ready to be appointed,
Yep.
and we'll
I'm
be
hoping to get an appointment letter out this week.
having a new
I found my
member.
own, you know,
And so,
almost a year
so
ago.
you can
I
take
found
your
my
name
own
tag
police
if you'll.
Oh, I'm going to leave the holder.
Leave the
because
holder,
that
we'll need
doesn't
that.
belong to me.
Well, thank you very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
May I?
Yeah, you should.
I move we
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we still need a roll call. Mike, you're first.
Ready? Yes, for my final vote.
Lundberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes?
We are adjourned. Thank you, Westborough TV, and good night.